Okay, welcome everyone. We have Lee Harris here. We're interviewing. He's going to be talking about his games and independent games development. So, Lee, why independent
Hi.
games, and what have you been doing? And yeah, and hello.
Why independent games? Well, I guess I just wanted to do my own thing, really. I figured if I went and got a job with an established game development house, that I wouldn't necessarily be able to come in as the lead developer. I mean, I wouldn't be able to, obviously. And it's nice to just be able to work on my own concept and just, beaver away at it day after day and slowly see it sort of come into something. Obviously, then you do have to worry about the business side of things as well quite a bit, but that's fine, comes with it, I guess.
Yeah,
And I love games. I don't necessarily play as many games as I used to, but especially since becoming a developer, you don't really have time. But I don't know.
So what'd you play when you were younger? What were big influences on you when you were younger?
To be honest, I play a lot of story kind of games, really, which is quite ironic given what I'm making, which is like a strategy title. I quite like just bombastic action type games, really, like Tomb Raider, Uncharted, and The Last of Us. So I like a nice raw story. But when it comes to like things that lead into strategy, I like the old XCOM. That was a big inspiration for me, with a pure strategy layer and then the tactical sending the people down. That's great. And early like Command and Conquer style games like Red Alert 2, which is my first foray into online gaming, I guess, and leaderboard type stuff. What's the other one? Like Syndicate and that kind of thing. So it's kind of thing. It tends to be things with a mouse, like you play the big action games on the console and you just have a laugh at that. And then you get serious on the PC. And that's the kind of thing I want to make, I guess. That's the kind of thing I feel like I can contribute to.
Okay. And so I can see that's where you've got a lot of influence, with making your sort of game. So how long have you been kind of working on the current game you're on?
So the current game is almost exactly 13 months old now. I actually started to learn how to use Unity, which it's being developed in, at the beginning of that year. So I guess I started learning Unity about 15 months ago. And I did a little bit of Unreal before that, and I've kind of coded all my life, but it's not necessarily immediately relevant to game dev. A lot of sort of tinkering, but nothing professional. And so the game itself, I guess, is just over a year old, and that is relatively full-time development. I guess it's going pretty well for about a year, really. But I mean, you tell me. I feel like it's going okay.
Yeah. All right. So you've got some images you want to share with us with the game. Now, for people who are watching this via the Twitch stream, straight after this interview, we're going to be showing one of the actual clips. But if you're watching this on YouTube, we're going to put the link to the video in the description. So yeah, if you want to show us some images, Lee.
Yeah, so I thought it'd be a good idea to just sort of show what it's like now, just sort of hop in straight away. The essential idea is that you got the space stuff and you've got the planet stuff. So the spaceships can sort of move from planet to planet, but you can also go down on the ground. And it's kind of new in that sense, because like Planetary Annihilation was great for ground style movement, but the idea of Fragile Existence is that we're doing both. So you can actually go around the planet in orbit, you can travel from planet to planet, and you can also go down onto the planet's surface itself. So you can see sort of the waypoint markings that we got there, and the planets themselves are procedurally generated. We can actually place like the trees and the mountains on top, and it kind of does everything that a real-time strategy game does. You can pause it, so it's got that kind of turn-based type thing going on as well, so you can have a think about it. And as you can see, you can get right down to the individual units. There's a spider tank on the ground down there. You click on them, move them around, explore the ground, and the ships can sort of do their thing in orbit as well. And there's a like a carrier ship, carries all the little fighters, and this is going through the warp sequence, which just doubles as the loading screen. So I figured I needed to do all this procedural generation, and it would be a good idea if I could do it in a way that masks it, which is also kind of cool. So you got this sort of like warp conduit where you can still do things while the game's loading, and so every time you jump to another solar system, you get that sort of loading screen. But you're also doing like you're tinkering with all your ship layout. So you're in charge of a fleet, essentially. You are the commander, you are the manager of that fleet. And this is just sort of illustrating like the ground tech the ground tech is a large part of what I've been working on. So I've had to be quite patient and develop these sort of systems so that you can move around on the planet using like pathfinding algorithms and being able to place things and it sort of orients correctly and that kind of thing. So I'm just flying through these really just to sort of illustrate the sort of position I'm at currently. And the atmosphere actually uses relatively realistic physics. I'm using my physics degree a little bit there, but that's about it really. And just sort of illustrating the atmosphere effects. There's going to be a bundled planet editor, so you can do these kind of things, generate your planet. You can change all the settings depending on which archetype type of planet it is, like a Earth-like or a rocky or a gas planet. Change the radius and all that kind of thing. And likewise, you can set up the solar system itself. So once you've generated those planets, you just sort of place them into their positions. And these like lines define how the ships can move from planet to planet. So you can set all that up. It's not necessarily that you can just fly anywhere. And I come back out of screen sharing. It's a case of like, it is three-dimensional space, but I place rules on it because I believe a strategy game needs like choke points and that kind of thing. So I thought that'd be a good idea.
Yeah. And so is it, have you got campaign and multiplayer, or is it mainly multiplayer, or what's?
So I actually prefer, as I said, or as I alluded to earlier about liking stories, I like campaigns. So I'm thinking a little bit like a homeworld style campaign, but without the true cinematic scale. It's more that you're calling the shot. So you go around. Yeah, it starts with it's quite Battlestar Galactica-y. I'm not going to lie. It's a big inspiration for the story. Except it's set in like human space. So it's set in the year 2700. Earth has just been destroyed. The near Earth territories, all the colonies have been wiped out as well. And so you're taking control of this last fleet of humanity going out there. And so the campaign is like starting in Sol and traveling through like the remains of the human colonies, going out into the AI territories where they're building all the initial colonies for mankind. And they just sort of get on with it. And we're going outwards and outwards and outwards, trying to find some, some end whilst we're being chased by the Cylons. Sorry, not the Cylon, a mysterious enemy force. So that's the general idea. I do want to do a campaign. There'll be skirmish as well, but multiplayer might happen down the road because I think it would be a bit of a waste of the tech actually if I didn't try, because I think people will really want to do like fleet versus fleet using the planetary and solar generation tech that I've built. I think it would be a waste not to do some sort of multiplayer, but that's going to be further down the line.
Yeah, I was going to mention Galactica because I was reading the names, the titles on something. So I saw like Diablo, I saw Picard, and I saw Galactica. That was one of the first ones, and I was going to say, is Battlestar Galactica going to is you going to make a comment on Battlestar Galactica, which you did? And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, and like I'm a big fan of both classic and new Galactica as well, and I'm kind of very interested in what they're going to do with the new series. So
yeah, I'm not sure we need that, but it's coming.
Yeah, look, I'm usually pretty open, but yeah, we'll see what happens. I know it seems a bit close compared to when they just did the last one, so we'll see what happens. So for you, with your game, how important is story to you, creating? Because you kind of described a big kind of background to what is actually happening in the game. So how important is story in making a game?
Well, I think it comes down to, at the end of the day, I want to tell stories. This is the medium that I can use. This is the one that I'm good at. I could write a novel or try and get into film development or something, but I'm not. It's not realistic. But I can program, and it is something you can now do at home. Which is where I am. I don't even have an office here, and it's an opportunity for. Now with Unity and Unreal and that, it's given me the opportunity to do a narrative at a level I wouldn't normally be possible, I guess. And so it is very important to me. And the idea of building up it sounds marketing-y, but I kind of want to build up a franchise around it. I want to do other games set in the same universe. So before the collapse of I've got ideas for games I'd like to do there as well. And I know I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, but I don't necessarily think it hurts to have an idea, at least, as long as I'm not working on 4 games at the same time.
Yeah, well, I think that's important. I think players, well, I think just individual people like it, that in general, that if you're able to kind of scope out an expanded universe with different stories and different things, as opposed to, oh, I'm just making it up as I go along. I think that kind of gives more depth, and also gives people more of an experience to kind of go, okay, well, this is the story in the universe he's creating, and they've got this and this and this. There's also things to look forward to, but also things to expect when you're actually dealing in it. So how many kind of, with the story, how many times did you had to go back and go, look, I'm going to change this, like dramatic changes, or did you kind of go, okay, I've got this pretty much written out, and I've only made kind of minor changes?
I think I sort of had ideas going back years, I guess, which alludes to me kind of wanted to write novels, really, but never really getting around to it. And so that a lot of that has been incorporated into this. I think what you tend to do is you take a lot of ideas you like and sort of just merge them together and see if it comes out nicely. And then the other thing you have to factor in is, does it work in game? It's like, can I get graphical assets that will even fit what I'm trying to do? And sometimes that will inform your narrative as well, because I openly admit I'm not doing all the graphical stuff myself. So I'm willing to buy assets from Unity Store and from like websites you can go to get 3D assets. It's been a blessing, and the game looks so much better for it. And so I would encourage people to do that. Don't deny yourself that opportunity. But that can actually inform your narrative quite a bit as well, because it's like, well, okay, this is, like the carrier, for example. I originally envisioned a carrier being, so that the ships fly off like they do on an aircraft carrier. But then I found better assets, and I just changed the story, I guess, to fit the one that I now found, and it's better for it. So you shouldn't really ever be strictly thinking, I want the story to be this, and just completely inelastic and not changing.
Yeah. And so, like, you're working on it like full time for like 15 months, and and this is one thing I want to ask, especially with what's been happening in the world, is that, do you think that has been something that has been actually, I think, mental health wise? I always asked about this. This is something that's been actually something really good for you, because were able to, even pre lockdown, you've got something that's a goal setting, something like you can envision, something you're still working on. You're looking ahead, as opposed to when some people may not even be thinking about tomorrow. They're thinking that you're going to go, oh, okay, I'm thinking a year ahead.
It certainly is a weird time. And I think this kind of fell into my lap. I don't know whether that expression fits, but like, in terms of just as COVID was sort of even starting, I was like, well, I'll just do this instead, and it kind of just fit. And you're right, a lot of people don't have projects or hobbies that they can do, and that's, like, I'll be talking to them about this kind of thing, and they're like, well, I haven't really been able to go out, and I wish I had something. But I think I've inspired a couple of people as well to just try, like, have a go at doing game dev, even if it's just on the level of you don't need to get into Unreal or Unity if you're not a programming person. Just do something simpler. Like there's Construct 2, there's Godot. Make platformers, that kind of thing. Just play around, and okay, maybe I skipped that, but like I don't think people necessarily should. And so it is a good thing, definitely.
Yeah. Now, community, with making this game, has this kind of opened you up to people that you've never actually knew before this actual project? Like, someone's heard that you've done something like this, or it's kind of, has it? What I'm trying to say is,
my inspiration, you've kind of trying it.
People that you've met newer people because of doing this, or is it because of lockdown you haven't actually had the opportunity?
I think initially, like, there are YouTubers who do like game development, like logs, I guess, and they can be quite popular. Like Thomas Brush, for example, is a big one, and they're quite inspiring, I guess. But they're different types of games. These days, I don't know really. Like, there's definitely people I've met since starting this who are on a similar adventure. Like, they're solo devs. They're trying to do something very ambitious. A lot of them are space games, come to think of it. I guess it's just because it's easier to do on your own, maybe. and so I've made connections since then, but I don't know what necessarily what my original sort of inspiration was. I guess YouTubers, maybe they're doing a job.
Yeah. And what was also like when people started kind of, you know, having a look at it, or, you know, testing out and giving you some feedback. I'm assuming that's kind of, you might have done that. You know, what was that feeling of kind of like, hey, I'm making this, and people are like going, hey, this is
well, it's nice. You also get this. I mean, if I'm completely honest, like, you kind of get more burden placed on you the more spotlight you get.
Yeah.
Which sounds like a negative. I don't mean to say it in a negative way, but it kind of just happens like that. Like, there was a time right at the beginning, you know, like May last year, I was just beavering away, working on the code, not a care in the world. Like, I knew it was going to take a long, long time, and I had to be patient to get to this sort of stage where it started to look like it should. But, you know, now it's sort of like I have to think about the business side of things, and I have to think about like exposure and talking to people about it. And it's not like I don't want to do that, but it is a different world. It's like I'm not necessarily a game dev anymore. I'm a businessman, and that's nice, but it's not quite the same feeling.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because, like, over the years, the amount of I think students or even people who are kind of going out into the games, like they've made a game and they kind of like, I just want people to enjoy it, and the whole business side is kind of feel like it's a negative sort of thing. They're like, I want a career, but I'd like everyone just to share it. It's kind of like it's a hesitation. I think it's also because it's very different, because you kind of, when you're building a game, you're controlling everything. You know, even if you're in a team, you're controlling it, and then you're out there, and it's, you know, for some games, like there'd be amazing games where, you know, it doesn't get noticed at all, or it doesn't come out there, or okay, how much do I charge for this, or how do I do that? There's all those kind of uncertainties, and but I always feel with that most game developers, I think, it's great that they kind of project that little bit of they're apologizing in a way, but it's like, well, no, if this is something that you want to do with your career, this is the sort of thing you're going to do, and, you know, if you can make a living out of it, well, then the expanded stories or new narratives or new games are going to go off they go, and people are going to enjoy it.
Like, sorry, I had a brain freeze. What was I going to say? Sorry, can you rephrase?
Well, like, you were saying about when you were talking about the business side of it, like you were saying you're a business person trying to promote this thing, but I could see a little bit of a hesitation, and it's like I always see this with a lot of games developers when they're first starting off. There's a little bit of negativity, as in not in like they're almost apologizing that they're actually making a business model for it.
Yeah, so I guess I feel like I don't want to put a strict line down it, but there's almost like there's two types of devs. There's the ones that want to do it as a hobby, and they'll tend to make nice, fun, cheery, or perhaps very topical kind of game. And they tend to be on like itch, or there'll be a very, very low price on Steam, and they're not necessarily thinking of it in an entrepreneurial kind of way. It's just something they really enjoy doing, and they want people to play, like you're saying. I feel like there's a lot of people that don't necessarily want to make that leap into the bigger ocean and to, I guess, compete with so much competition that he's trying to make money out of it. Because like I say, Unity and Unreal and all these other engines are making it so much easier now for your average sort of person to just say, I'm going to be a game developer, and they can, but they might not get that recognition. And it's like with any business opportunity, I guess it is a gamble. You know, you've got to put time in, you've got to put money in to a certain degree, definitely not as big a block as it can be in some industries. I think, like, I've spent very little on this game so far. It's pennies. Essentially, my website is up for free. It do everything as cheap as you can. Why not? Until you've got serious presence, just get away with it. Do it as borderline as you can. And but there is a lot of people doing it, and you kind of got to have something that stands out. Whether I've got that, I don't know. I hope so. But a lot of people are going to say the same thing. They're going to be like, is my game really going to get up there? Is it going to get shown at E3 or whatever? Because you do need to do that, really. Like, that's how you really make it. But it depends on whether you want to make it a career or not.
Yeah. Well, fantastic. So, Lee, I just want to say thank you very much for just giving us some time. you're way over on the other side of the planet. So for those of you who are watching this on the New Game Plus TV Twitch stream for TGF, we're going to show one of Lee's clips directly after this interview. If you're watching this on YouTube, we're going to put all the links down below in the description. So then if you want to go follow Lee's work, you want to see new clips, you want new things, you want to see all the amazing stuff he's doing, you can go and check that out. But yeah, but I just want to say, Lee, I think your game looks amazing. It kind of jumped out at me, and that made me to actually reach out and say, oh, I'm very interested in what you're actually doing. But on behalf of the TGF event and Cause and Effects Gamers, I'd like to say thank you very much.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been great, Andrew.
Yeah, thank you.
Take care.